Hello, and welcome to this rapid-fire overview of what's new and next in HealthShare. I'm Jonathan Teich, Chief Medical Information Officer and Director of Product Management for HealthShare. If you're familiar with nothing but trailers on TV, this could be the same way. In the next 45 minutes or so, we'll talk about what we've been up to over the past year, high-level new features and architecture and structures across the board, and a quick look at our future strategic directions. Everything I described for a few minutes here is also the subject of a focus session available in your own program, where you'll find much more depth than we have time for today. I'll be joined today by 5 members of our product management and strategic marketing teams who will go into a little more depth on 5 particular areas of interest out of the dozens of new elements that have appeared in HealthShare over the past year. So, as it has for many of you, this year, almost as much as last year, has been a year of remarkable challenges and adaptations. To our joy, we've been able to be fully vaccinated and back working together in person the majority of time since June. While remote work has been and continues to be something we do very successfully, the interactions and bump-in-the-hall meetings and cross-team collaborations and just the emotional content from in-person connections have been a real boost. Even so, with travel restricted, our service and implementation teams have been able to be as responsive as ever, which I and many of our customers find remarkable. So I hope that all of you are making your way through all the craziness and finding success and fulfillment. As a product organization, our drivers are largely unchanged at the highest level, but certainly there are points of greater emphasis in this new world. COVID-19 itself has brought on additional need for data, whether to measure illness burden, resource utilization, machine language predictions of what therapies work best. Then, all the side effects of the pandemic include more use of unusual venues of care like telehealth and home care with their own special data needs. More people who have ignored their chronic conditions for a year and are suddenly overwhelming medical structures that don't have time and space anyway. And some increased merger and statewide, nationwide programs that call for even larger data collections from even more sources. Add to that new regulations, particularly in the US on payers and everywhere concerning security and patient data access, and the enticement of modern technologies, and we have plenty of opportunities and plenty of needs for the kind of large-scale, wide-area, high-quality data that HealthShare can provide best. So, one level down, all these drivers beget all of these use cases and more for a unified care record with high-capacity analytics capabilities. I would group these use cases into data flow uses, such as care coordination and surveillance, clinical trial recruitment and chronic condition monitoring, then extended or filtered data set use cases, such as increasing needs for community and non-patient and non-clinical and social determinant data, and use cases that speak to new technological opportunities, particularly now that AI and ML are finding the applications where they can really be of benefit. So across the suite of HealthShare applications, in the past year we've been working on specific targeted functionality to hit some of those specific use cases. We've also been working a great deal on the underlying architecture to provide ever greater capacity, speed, and manageability. We've seen increased activity, new customers, new uses, new needs for connectivity across all of our large customer segments, and product demands for each. From payers, addressing new data exchange requirements and promoting health among their members through combining clinical and claims data, to life sciences, looking to streamline subject recruitment and site selection, to providers trying to make new inferences, coordinate care, provide efficiently for appropriate patient cohorts, to HIEs looking to provide more value with surveillance and public health measurements. We also see that more of these segments need to talk to each other around this ring. Through FHIR, through managed connection, through large-scale data exchange, we've worked to address all of these connectivity needs as well. So we'd like to focus in today on a few out of many areas of high importance to our customers' missions, where we have new products and continued product enhancement to support your own strategic needs. So here's a good leadoff. In the US, CMS continues to enact regulations regarding patient access to their own data, communication of transitions of care, and greater billing rationality. Here's Linda Rowe to tell you about HealthShare's CMS solutions that help get you through this complex series of rules. Linda, all yours.
Thanks, Jonathan. So what I'm going to talk about now is how HealthShare has supported both our payer and provider customers to meet regulatory requirements in the US market, specifically the CMS rules. So what's included in that? You know, there were a number of things that happened in the past year. So there's, in the provider market, event notifications for providers. And on the payer side, there was patient access APIs that hit in July, provider directory APIs in that same time frame, and finally, peer-to-payer exchange coming in 2022. In addition to that, a new regulation came out this year that goes into effect early next year called no surprises billing, and it really impacts how we deploy our provider directory product. So let's dig into what came out for providers. There were a number of different rules from CMS, but let's focus on event notifications. So what this was all about is that when a patient is admitted, discharged, or transferred to an emergency room or an inpatient, you want to send a notification to their primary care physician, to the physician group, to a post-acute care, to whatever setting makes sense. And those alerts need to come out. So what we are doing is the ability to ingest those alerts into HealthShare and then direct them to the right recipient and make sure that they receive it. We also want to build in and have built in logging functionality to make that happen. On the payer side, it was a very busy year as well. So in July, there were both the patient access APIs as well as provider directory APIs, and I'll tell you a little more about that in a minute, as well as the upcoming payer-to-payer data exchange that will come out in sometime 2022. So what does that really mean? So it's really important if you think about the ultimate goal is to share this information with members and others in the community. So payers have all this different information. They have claims data, they have clinical data, they have lab data, they have provider directory data, they have pharmacy data. So we're able to take that into HealthShare, thanks to all the great work done by our product team, and then expose that in a way that meets these regulations. So for the patient access APIs, it's allowing you as a member to get access to that information through a third-party app. For the provider directory provision, it's making that information generally available so that people can look and search for providers in their network. And finally, I'll talk a little more about what's involved in peer-to-payer exchange. An important thing that's happened, though, is the rollout of what is called US CDI, or the United States Core Data for Interoperability. I'm not going to go into the details, but the important thing is this is now the new common set of data that we need to share as part of clinical data exchange. And this has been something we built into our product and support both in Unified Care Record as well as the transforms to be able to make it FHIR-enabled. Likewise, for our payer customers, there's the CPCDS, or Common Payer Consumer Data Set. And again, I'm not going to the details of what's included, but this is a common set of data that's important to payers that we've created in our Unified Care Record data elements to support it, as well as the FHIR transforms. For the provider directory and drug formulary requirements, we have been supporting what is called the Da Vinci implementation guides to be able to support those. And again, that's something we've been building into the product to make sure we meet those end requirements. For payer-to-payer exchange, the real point of this is to allow you as a member to take data from your old health plan and move it to your new health plan, because that's important information to know. And right now, the way the regulations stand is there's no real standard. But as an industry, the folks that have been participating in what's called the Da Vinci Project have sort of coalesced around using what's called PDEX, Payer Data Exchange, which is a FHIR-enabled way of moving data from one payer to another. And again, really important to our roadmap and what we've been building into the product is support for PDEX so that our payer customers in 2022 can be compliant with that rule and know that we're supporting them. Let's talk a little bit about no surprises billing. So again, the whole point of this is that you as a patient or a member need to know if you're going to get a surprise bill from your provider. You don't want that to happen. And all of that is predicated on having really, really strong, correct provider information, both from your provider organization that needs to sort of clean that data up before they hand it off to the health plan, and from your health plan, because when you go to search for information from your payer, you want to make sure you know that payer is in your network and that you're not going to get a surprise bill. So what have we done? We've really done some important work, both in 2020 as well as 2021. If you think about it, leading up into this year, we did some work with FHIR to support what's called US Core, which are the set of FHIR-based profiles that support that CPCDS and US CDI data elements. We've put US CDI data elements into Unified Care Record. We've also put that CPCDS data element into our Unified Care Record, or SDA as you would know it as. And then the other important work we've done is we've mapped that data into FHIR resources so that you can actually share and expose that information. So both for US Core, for the Care and Blue Button CPCDS dataset, and for PDEX. In terms of functionality, let's think about, well, what have we done? We've really supported a whole host of profiles, and most recently, we're supporting the PDEX profiles, but there are others that we've supported that I've talked about. We're supporting peer-to-peer edge gateway, which is coming soon, which will allow both ingestion and export of FHIR-based data, and then enhancements to provider directory, support for what's called DaVinci PlanNet to enhance what we can do with provider directory, but also enhancements that will help meet No Surprises Billing Act. So we've been really busy this past year implementing things to help our customers meet these regulatory requirements.
Thanks, Linda. As Linda points out, in building out our US CDI and other relevant data sets, we're making it possible to work with them in SDA, in Health Insight, and in FHIR. We are strong believers in the power of FHIR, leaders in the FHIR movement, and panel members of the DaVinci and other working groups. More and more, FHIR is becoming a common language for interoperability, and its growing presence and usability allow it to become a basis for our solutions, some of which work natively with FHIR. Matt Spielman, among his many roles, is product owner of our InterSystems FHIR team, and he's going to tell you about the flexibility of our FHIR solutions and particularly about our new multi-patient query.
Thanks, Jonathan. I want to take my time with you today to talk about 3 areas where we have been improving our support for FHIR in the Unified Care Record. We've worked hard to provide great management tools for FHIR in the UCR. All important FHIR management functions, from configuration to logging, are now available within a sleek, new, modern user interface. We've made it easier to manage the storage requirements of FHIR, and adding support for new FHIR profiles is as simple as a few clicks. Based on your feedback, we've invested significant effort to remove as many barriers as possible to adopting new FHIR capabilities within HealthShare. Customers on versions as far back as HealthShare 2019.1 can adopt the newest version of FHIR support without a full upgrade of their Unified Care Record. We've also made it possible to support multiple FHIR profiles on a single endpoint. For example, a HealthShare customer can concurrently support US Core and DaVinci profiles on a single FHIR endpoint. However, I'm going to spend the rest of my time talking about how we have extended our FHIR support to ensure the Unified Care Record is the best tool to solve your problems. And I want to frame this for you by talking about using data in 3 different ways. The most common use case for the Unified Care Record is sharing of individual patients' data, often at the point of care. This can be done using standard formats, such as HL7 CDA documents, HL7 FHIR, or, of course, the HealthShare Clinical Viewer. When we want to look at very large groups of patients for analysis and machine learning, we, of course, turn to Health Insight and the broad and powerful sets of tools that are available in Iris for Health. Both of these use cases provide different views into the same aggregated clean data in the Unified Care Record at the individual patient level and the entire population. However, there is an underserved use case in the middle. How do we take the knowledge we gain from analysis of data and operationalize it? How do we turn this knowledge and data into solutions that can target smaller groups of patients, identify them faster, intervene sooner, improve their health outcomes, and reduce the cost of healthcare? Our answer is multi-patient query. MPQ mates the flexibility of FHIR queries with the real-time data capabilities of the Unified Care Record. You can access data at the cohort level, leveraging the power of the Unified Care Record without having to know anything about how it works. No need to understand SDA, no need for SQL queries. The UCR does the work of ingesting every common healthcare data format and presents it to you in a FHIR API that can be easily used to build web-based applications. Want to see every patient in all of your emergency departments across the health system in a single web page? No problem. Want to get a list of every admitted patient with a diagnosis of heart failure? Sure, let's do that right now. First, we'll start by loading in a few patients. Let's drop in an ADT, a CDA document, and maybe some FHIR JSON just for fun. The UCR grabs the data and immediately gets to work. The data is normalized to SDA within the unified care record and then transformed into FHIR and stored in the FHIR gateway. At this point, our data is ready to go, faster than it took me to explain what was happening. Now, a simple one-line FHIR query is all we need to get our data. Let's take a look at what it's doing. First, we start by querying for encounters since October 10th, 2021. We also want to include the subject of our encounter, the patient, in the results. Next, we'll include all diagnoses or conditions associated with the encounter, and we only want encounters with a diagnosis code of I-50, which is heart failure in ICD-10. Or, to say it in plain English, show me all the encounters with associated patients and diagnoses since October 10th, 2021 with a diagnosis of heart failure. This is a basic web application that was created by one of our developers in just a few hours. Here, we see we have a few patients who meet our criteria that have been admitted over the last couple of days. All of the data in this list is supplied to the client by that single FHIR query we just looked at. Now, let's load in a few more so we can see just how real-time these types of solutions can be with multi-patient query, FHIR, and the unified care record. And there it is. As you can see, the data is almost instantly available and ready for you to take action. I hope this was interesting and you have some great new ideas of things you can do with the new multi-patient query feature of the HealthShare FHIR Gateway. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Matt. As you know, in the past few years, we've focused more on health solutions, on workflow-friendly ways to access and manipulate data critical to your important clinical and healthcare management functions. In particular, functions such as clinical quality measurement, care coordination, and some of the others I mentioned earlier, that can only be done well by combining information beyond what any one local EHR can have. Let's look at a couple of these in depth. We released Care Community in Europe in the past year, and have brought it into the US context as well. Care Community is a great tool set for managing care coordination and communication among team members or referral partners in multiple locations, both for sharing up-to-date information about the patient and for managing the tasks and milestones of complex care plans. Jeremy Davis has an update on some of the newer features in Care Community.
Thank you, Jonathan. To address some of the needs you just heard about, let's take a look at how Care Community can facilitate improved collaboration and planning for care teams through the lens of a provider like Emily Carroll. Today, Emily wants to see and contribute to a complex plan for her patient so that she can keep track of all of the important information she needs to over time. She wants to not have to re-enter information known across multiple EMRs so that she can document as efficiently as possible. And she wants to keep track of all of her tasks across patients so that she knows everything that's been assigned to her. Plus, an administrator knows that there's a rich trove of information captured in care plans, and he wants to look at data captured in these care plans at a population health level. To accomplish this, Emily will contribute to a collaborative plan that can be co-authored by a multidisciplinary team, create and review all of these tasks that are assigned to her on an individual plan or across multiple patients, import data already known to HealthShare so that she can save time, and easily export data from care plans to feed information back to her healthcare organization. At the heart of Care Community is a collaborative plan that can be co-authored by many people over time. These plans are easily configured and offer a lot of flexibility to Emily's organization. Importantly, because anyone on the patient's care team could be involved in a plan, there is a simple workflow that allows users to see who has last edited the plan and who might be working on it right now. Care plans are surfaced within the context of the clinical viewer so that clinicians can easily see all of the important clinical information about a patient known across your healthcare ecosystem, such as medications or diagnoses, then quickly toggle to what they want to document in a plan. The seamless transition is enabled by implementation of single sign-on for HealthShare products. This collaboration, integration, and flow can facilitate improved care documentation for Emily and other members of the care team. Beyond a shared collaborative plan, Emily may wish to proactively advance the goals of a plan. To that end, Care Community offers a tasking mechanism. Tasks can be created directly within the context of a plan so that if there is a need for someone to create a referral, a task can be generated to monitor that activity until it's done. Of course, because clinicians like Emily may be on more than one patient's care team, there is also a view that allows them to look at all of their assigned tasks across all of their patients. Emily may also want to import data into her care plan so that she doesn't have to recreate what HealthShare already knows about. This can be helpful to the viewer of a plan, both because the information can be surfaced in the appropriate clinical place in a plan and be included as part of a PDF when the plan does need to be generated as a static document. So, coming soon, Care Community offers this capability, which will work with both medications and allergies out of the box. Finally, we know that there is a rich trove of data captured in care plans that an administrator may want to look at as discrete information. To that end, Care Community offers the Question Library. The library is a catalog of pre-built questions that defines codes for questions and answers and determines where in the unified care record that information should be stored. The library comes with some questions out of the box and can be added to by your implementation team so that administrators can create reports to answer population-level questions about patients who are on care plans. In summary, Emily has been able to collaborate with other members of a care team in the context of all of the patient information that HealthShare knows about. She is able to proactively manage care through a tasking mechanism and can save time for herself and the team by importing data into plans and exporting data from them.
Another solution that is relatively new and gaining a lot of interest is Provider Directory. It was originally designed to pull together and reconcile multiple directories across your enterprise. It does that very well, and it's now moving to be a true source of truth directory, able to broadcast changes back to the other sources. You've also asked for more precise manageability and access control for records managers across the enterprise. HealthShare Provider Directory additionally has a large role to play in standards, payer-to-payer transfer, attribution for value-based care, and in the US, the No Surprises Act. Jim Derrickson will give you an update on Provider Directory's many new powers and options. Jim?
Welcome, I am Jim Derrickson, product owner for both Patient Index and Provider Directory. Today, I'm here to give a preview of what is new in Provider Directory. The vision of HealthShare Provider Directory is about sharing clean provider data. Today, provider information is often fragmented across care delivery silos. Public directories often contain out-of-date and inaccurate information. This becomes a barrier to patient access and creates many bottlenecks in healthcare. In HealthShare Provider Directory, we're able to take multiple sources of provider information to build a single source of truth. We use our push service to update the HealthShare User Clinician Registry with provider identifiers, direct addresses, and endpoints to drive notifications in the unified care record. Our push service also creates our FHIR repository that is part of our CMS solution pack. And the push service can be used to send provider updates to external systems to facilitate other workflows, such as cross-entity care management. The value of Provider Directory is to serve as a single source of truth. This source of truth is created by using information from multiple sources, such as in this case, records from an East Care clinic, an Echo credentialing system, and a WestMed IDN, to produce a master record for provider Fred Johnson. Provider Directory can be used for multiple use cases, such as provider attribution, reducing referral leakage, supporting no surprise billing, as well as other high-impact use cases. Our focus for sharing clean provider information relies on leveraging our strength in interoperability. Using our matching engine for identity management to produce a single source of truth, and applying data governance to create an accurate and up-to-date directory. We do this to help meet both the regulatory and business needs in healthcare. New features in Provider Directory build upon our interoperability strength. We have added an NPES endpoint service to consume the CMS NPI provider endpoint file, expanded upon our support of the PDIX DaVinci PlanNet FHIR standard. We have also added a new public LDAP API for faster implementation. For identity management, we've enhanced our search capability by adding phonetic search to the directory. Data stewards can now search on locations directly as well as search for organizations by type. We also updated our new patient search to utilize the new FHIR patient value set. For data governance, we allowed data stewards now to add and edit network and plan information. We also added concurrency control to prevent multiple updates to the same records at the same time. Lastly, we added a new feature called Form Access to manage role-based permissions to control what information can be viewed and edited in the directory by data stewards. Let's take a closer look at the new Form Access feature. Here is the new Form Access app in Provider Directory. Under Form Access, we can manage permissions for the roles that a site can add for their operational needs. A site can define roles for different teams of users, such as roles for the business team, external team, and cross-regional team. We're going to take a look at the business team permissions. For this business team, we can define permissions for all the forms they manage. These form permissions can be view only, view and edit, or custom. If we look at the permissions defined for managing an individual provider record, we can see that a business team member has view and edit access for most sections. Some sections view only, such as identifiers and specialties, and for others, no access at all. If we look at the provider record for Fred Johnson in edit mode without the business role applied, we can see the full attributes for identifiers with the ability to add and edit. The same is true for the background and the specialty section. If we look at the same provider record with the business team role applied, the user now only has view access to identifiers, and they are restricted from viewing some identifier fields. They only have view access for specialty information. They're unable to view any information for background or sanctions. Lastly, they do have view and edit capability for the education section. A closing note on the Form Access feature is that it works with the Provider Directory extensible data model and overview form customizations. So if you add new fields to the directory in the overview, you can use the Form Access feature to manage permissions for your changes. To recap on what is new in Provider Directory, our focus remains on increased interoperability, improved identity management, and data governance. Better directories allow for better patient access to providers and improve provider utilization. Inaccurate directories can negatively impact how plans can charge patients. Our product vision of sharing clean provider information is in alignment with the needs in healthcare today and the challenges of no surprise billing.
Thanks, Jim. Besides these few that we have time for today, there have been enhancements across the board on HealthShare Health Solutions. You've heard a lot this week about analytics. Health Insight is making major strides in performance and capacity in working with our own reports and with third-party front ends such as Tableau and Power BI, and in ongoing work to make it much easier to build up a library of content such as HEDIS and clinical quality measures. Both Personal Community and the Clinical Viewer have undergone significant user experience and functionality upgrades. Personal Community is undergoing a full UX revamp and redesigning the way it displays health records. Clinical Viewer has added new elements such as grouping, date filtering, and is the centerpiece of our newer integrated single login navigation menu providing access to many applications. And we are finishing up a new capability that greatly enhances our existing event notifications, making it easy for you to configure your own rules or to drop in third-party rule packages while HealthShare manages the triggers, the data input, and resulting actions based on CDS hooks. Please tune into the relevant focus sessions for more info on these. There's one more thing to focus on. Of course, HealthShare is known for capacity, data organization, functionality, service. We also care about implementability, upgradability, and cost. We gave special emphasis to this year, looking at tools and strategies to make implementation simpler, data mapping surer, data frameworks less expensive. Leah Goddard will give a short overview of work on streamlined data mapping and data profiling.
Thank you, Jonathan. This year, we embarked on a major initiative to lower the time to value and total cost of ownership of HealthShare. Since the most time-consuming and expensive part of implementing HealthShare is setting up data feeds, we are working to provide our implementation partners with out-of-the-box data transformations that enable HealthShare to accept the majority of HL7 v2 feeds into the Unified Care Record by default. We are also helping implementers identify and perform any additional steps needed to bring the outstanding data into HealthShare, thereby speeding up the onboarding process. We will explore the expanded implementation toolset in more depth in a moment. Once the system is live, the primary cost driver is the infrastructure needed to support HealthShare. We have taken a multifaceted approach to reduce storage costs while optimizing performance and scalability, allowing customers to allocate resources more efficiently. This has resulted in significant cost savings with more to come. Our future efforts will focus on making upgrades simpler by providing centralized, easy-to-follow steps with tools to point out customizations that require review, and by automating more tasks where possible and performing more tasks in the background to minimize downtime. HealthShare aggregates and deduplicates data from many sources. While the Unified Care Record readily ingests an HL7 v2 standard into its proprietary data model, organizations store and send data in different formats. The HL7 v2 data transformation framework is designed to bring feeds to a similar starting point, replacing the need for over 90% of transformations that are typically required. Bringing data feeds to the starting point also reduces the amount of work needed for customer and EMR-specific transformations. After utilizing the data transformation framework, the data profiling tool shows implementers what HL7 v2 data will not make it into the Unified Care Record, and more importantly, tells implementers why, so they can correct the issue at the source or modify it when it is sent to HealthShare. The tool validates if data is populated and formatted appropriately, according to the HL7 v2 standard that translates most directly to the Unified Care Record. The detail view of the data profiling tool allows implementers to drill down into a specific field to see which feeds may require additional transformations in order for that data to be ingested appropriately into the Unified Care Record. Beyond the implementation toolset, we have also made significant progress on lowering infrastructure costs and are pursuing further efforts to reduce our storage footprint. Please attend the HS20 HealthShare Storage Footprint Reduction session presented by Principal Technology Architect Mark Belinsky and the DA10 Saving on Storage session presented by Product Owner Benjamin DeBow to learn more about the savings we have achieved so far and what we are planning to achieve next.
Thanks very much, Leah, and I recommend those more detailed sessions. Just to be clear, this isn't about selling product. We are putting these advances in place for internal use by our implementation team, with benefits passed on to customers. Some of you who have seen this demonstrated have expressed a great deal of interest in when it might be available as a product element, the better to monitor and detect new data feed problems before they become big data feed problems. And so, it is something that we're thinking about for the future. So what's next? Looking at the next year or two, the drivers haven't changed. If anything, they've accelerated. Regulation, security, need to communicate and exchange, distributed care, mergers, value-based care, all this will be in our sights. Our high-level strategic priority areas run like this. First and foremost, performance and capacity. So we want to say we can handle any size enterprise, we're prepared for the biggest of big data. Second, fast and easy to install and upgrade, just as Leah just described, but also including the ability to absorb and represent new data models, including non-patient data, public and community social determinants, and more. Analytics three ways. As the best and cleanest, highest performing data store for all of your applications from performance measurement to machine learning, as the front and back end of our reporting capabilities, and as a growing toolkit to easily represent specific targets with specific value sets, such as HEDIS, resource utilization, and infectious surveillance. On the solution side, we're continuing to target key use cases I discussed earlier, and also in particular looking at how we can use our power to meet the specific operational challenges of the payer market and the life sciences market while still providing top service to all of our other markets. And then, on both the solutions and database side, we have increasing focus on management, configurability, and content tools. Quite frankly, we realized that we could target more of those key use cases more efficiently if we increase our modularity and simplify our configuration tools. Imagine if you wanted to set up a heart failure management program. You know that you need to collect and clean all the incoming data into the blue zone, but at the end, you want to do what all these orange elements do: notify the care team when a patient is getting sick, update the cohort of patients who would benefit from care management, provide specific focused views and summaries about the patient's status, put data out to your Smart on Fire apps, and write important multi-site conclusions from the Unified Care Record back into your home EHR. We have these capabilities and have a goal of making them easier and more flexible. Here are just a few of the elements that can be reoriented to make the high quality and high capacity of HealthShare ever more nimble. So that's a whirlwind tour of HealthShare, recent past, present, and near future. The opportunities are great, so are the challenges, and we love working with all of you to improve the health of everyone. As I mentioned, all of the material that I and the others presented briefly today is available in depth in the focus sessions, and I hope you will view as many of those as you can. Thank you very much.